Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our channel. This is Doug, and if you're new, it's great to have you. And if you're a returning viewer, it's always a pleasure to see you back. Now, today we have a real treat with an in-depth interview with master brewer Christian Holbrook from the acclaimed New Belgium Brewery. We're going to dive deep into the world of craft beer, discussing the refreshed formulation of the iconic Fat Tire beer. We'll also talk about their brewing process, future plans, and so much more. Now, if you're tight on time, don't worry, I've got you covered. I've also got prepared a summarized version of this interview, which hits all the main points in a more condensed format. You can find that link in the description below. So without further ado, let's jump into the full interview. Well, I am thrilled this afternoon to be with Christian Holbrook. Christian and I have chatted mostly by email, a little bit of phone, a little bit of texting, but we rarely get to see each other in person. But even this time we're having to do it remotely. I can't seem to coordinate it when Christian's around and we can get together. But I have been anxious, Christian, to hear a little bit about the New Belgium Fat Tire reformulation, and I know you're about to go off on a little bit of a sabbatical, some time away, and I appreciate you taking time this afternoon. So, how are you, first of all?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Yeah, you're right. I'm about to take off for my 20-year sabbatical. We have a part of our benefits program here at New Belgium, and really fortunate to be able to take this time off during the summer with my family, and really looking forward to it, and glad that we can have this conversation before I step away for a little while.
Well, you must be frantic trying to get done, so thank you for taking the time. But I know a lot about you as we've talked, and you've mostly given me tips on homebrewing, and you still have to always give you credit. You have helped me homebrew in such a way that my wife actually loves my homebrew, but she really only likes the recipe you shared.
Happy to help, Doug, but you're the brewer, so nice work.
Well, she loved the 1554, and I couldn't find it, and you were kind enough to help me with that recipe. So can you share a little bit about your journey to become brewmaster of New Belgium and how your relationship with Fat Tire specifically has kind of evolved over those years?
Yeah, definitely. I've been at New Belgium for 20 years, so I've been in the brewing industry for 23 years. So 20 of those at New Belgium. I actually started at New Belgium as a brewer. I worked shifts in the brewing department, in the cellar and brew houses, and around 2010 took on a role as our brewing ingredients quality manager. Held that role for about 8 years or so, and during the course of that time, went back to school at the University of Nottingham and completed the 3-year MSc in brewing science, and then in 2018, had this opportunity to step into the brewmaster role after Peter Buchart stepped away from New Belgium, which I can only say these are enormous shoes to fill. Following after Peter, and certainly after Jeff Leavish, and our founders. And it's, an enormous privilege and, responsibility as well. And one that I'm thrilled to be able to take on and, be in this position in 2023. It's a lot of excitement, a lot of complexity, everything that, you think goes with this job, and then 200% more would probably fit the bill. Too much to go into for the time we have today.
Well, and for a brewery that kind of specialized on, Belgian beers, to have the success that you guys have had with the IPAs is just phenomenal. I mean, I love that whole Voodoo series. Those are great beers. But we're here to talk about the Fat Tire. I do want to talk about the IPA sometime, but we're going to talk about Fat Tire today. That is, one of the most iconic beers. I mean, I've had dozens of cases probably of Fat Tire. So I think I know it pretty well, and I was pretty shocked to find out that you were reformulating. So what were the key factors in your decision to reformulate Fat Tire?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, first and foremost, some of the key factors were, approachability of Fat Tire in 2023 to the beer drinker in 2023. Approachability, drinkability of Fat Tire to a younger generation of beer drinkers, or younger generation of people that we would certainly like to become beer drinkers. And I think when we look at, the trends of, other alcoholic beverages, imported beers, I think, we ask ourselves the question, with Fat Tire's market performance, juxtaposed against other, market segments, is there an opportunity to rethink what Fat Tire can be in terms of recipe formulation? And, where can we draw some inspiration from traditional beer styles, as well as, what's available to us as brewers in the modern day?
Well, I'm actually going to pour one. Hope you don't mind me having one in front of you there.
Yep, please do. I've definitely, in my rush to get to our discussion today, neglected to get myself one. So as soon as we're done here, I'll probably go do that.
All right. Well, I hope I'll do a nice pour here. And I want to talk about that because, from appearances, and sadly, I cannot get a hold of an old one to put them side by side. But as I recall, that looks very similar. It might be a little lighter in color, but otherwise, it's pretty similar in appearance. So tell me about that.
It does look similar in appearance. I think, when we look at, the way a glass of beer sits on a table, or the way it shows up, in, your hand as you're holding a glass of beer, it is a little bit lighter in color. And that was intentional. We also took a look at, some of the aspects of the finishing process, the filtration process, and really wanted to make sure that, with that lighter color came a noticeably brighter beer, essentially. So what's really noticed is, you see the bubbles sort of, nucleating off of the etching in the bottom of that glass. And in good bright light, that beer should be pretty close to sparkling, and that was also intentional. And I think that really tells you, as a beer drinker, that this is, something that is really appealing to the senses, to the eye, certainly to the senses. Once you bring that glass up to your nose and mouth to take a drink, but it doesn't look heavy. It doesn't look, unappealing or unapproachable, like, something that might be, really out of the comfort zone of a new drinker for Fat Tire, somebody new to craft beer. Younger drinkers, for example, might be somebody else that, are looking for something a little bit lighter and more approachable.
So how did you maintain the core identity of Fat Tire? In other words, how'd you keep it Fat Tire, but make those changes?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's also, one of the challenges. I think it starts with, our yeast strain that we're using. We're really targeting a lot of the same, yeast-driven aroma compounds in present-day Fat Tire that we have in the past. And those might show up a little bit differently, in a sensory evaluation or to the beer drinker because of the, other different ingredients that are in there. But a lot of the same malts are in, this version of Fat Tire as well. There's Munich malt in there. There's Crystal 80 in there, albeit at, lower inclusion rates. But I think by bringing some of those, ingredients that have been present in Fat Tire for a number of years, decades really, into the new formula. We tie this beer to Fat Tire from a historical sense, or contextually tied to, I think what Fat Tire has always been.
It's a little lager-like.
Yep.
It's very drinkable.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that it's very drinkable. In terms of the lager-like characters, yeah, I mean, it's the same ale yeast that we've been using to make Fat Tire for decades. But yeah, I think we were certainly, going for, with that, lighter body, improved drinkability, real extract is lower in the finished beer. Wort fermentability is higher. And, I think that helps produce, along with a number of other things, can help sort of make up, a more drinkable beer, and a beer that not just maybe sits lighter on the palate initially, but finishes a little bit cleaner, which could be interpreted as maybe having some lager-like qualities.
Well, it's very nice, and it's a refreshing, particularly refreshing beer now, and I love that aspect of it. Switching gears or perspectives a little bit, Christian, did sustainability factor into this? I mean, I know that's a big priority for New Belgium. I've heard Jeff Levish talk about it. Did that have did you reformulate that with sustainability in mind?
We certainly took sustainability into consideration, with this project, right? The reformulation of the recipe. As as anybody who looks at a package of Fat Tire knows, this is, New Belgium's first certified carbon neutral beer, something that we're certainly really proud of. In terms of how we thought about that in the context of recipe, process, ingredients, we certainly opened a lot of doors, in terms of sustainability. We weren't, because of various, supply chain timelines, capacity, production challenges, that exist inside of our breweries. We weren't able to really leverage some of those capabilities for this beer as we're brewing Fat Tire today. I would say we learned a lot in the process, and there are certainly some things on tap, so to speak, as we think about the evolution of sustainability with Fat Tire, as well as with, our entire portfolio. So yeah, with this recipe, it does, I can't say that it's more or less sustainable. I will say that, like, we do have, with that carbon neutral certification, we're constantly looking for ways to, lower the greenhouse gas input of this beer, the overall carbon footprint of this beer. And I think there are a number of, really promising projects that are, in the near future for us to start to unlock.
Well, and I've witnessed some of that myself, your Asheville location, and you took really what was probably one of the roughest places in Asheville and have turned it into this beautiful beer oasis, which I think is just a huge tribute to New Belgium, and reflects, I think, the values of your company. Switching gears a little bit, though, the formulation change. Do you feel like that it is somewhat reflective of changes in general with the craft beer industry? And if so, could you kind of discuss what you think those changes are in craft beer?
A large portion of what's defined craft beer over the last 10 years has been IPA. And I think we've seen a really interesting evolution of, IPA as a general style or general category. And I think this version of Fat Tire, this formulation of Fat Tire, takes a different direction, right? Takes a different tack, into something that is more balanced, as we spoke about already, more drinkable, something that is easily sessionable that you could, bring to party, bring to a gathering, and, somebody who's not, a craft beer aficionado can easily pick up a fat tire, find a way to have one or two, maybe more if the situation is right. But you get what I'm saying. I think,
I do.
This isn't, I think it's taken a different approach, and I think, it's something that's really challenging to pull off, right? And we have, incredible coworkers here in
Yes.
R&D brewing, in our QA department, in our brewing department that, lend their opinions, lend their expertise to projects like this. And so it's challenging. It's really fun bringing it all together. And as we spoke about with sustainability, like knowing that there are some things on the shelf that, we can start to pull off that shelf and incorporate into this beer in the near future.
It almost sounds like, and I'm going to use the term, a gateway beer or a New Belgium gateway beer, that if somebody's not quite ready for a voodoo or, your triple or just, some of your more flavorful beers and flavor forward beers, this is something you could serve somebody that, has been used to more of a American lager style and would be probably very pleased with the flavors that's in it.
Yeah, certainly possible. I think about where Fat Tire is served. It's always, I think had a pretty strong presence in, on tap, on draft in bars and restaurants. And when it's in a bar and a restaurant, you think about drinking that beer with food and various food pairings. And, one of the things that I think has made Fat Tire such a great beer for so many years is it goes so well with so many different types of food. And I think that certainly still holds true with this Fat Tire, with this, refreshed formulation.
Yeah, I think it's especially good now as, after cutting the lawn. I wouldn't have...
exactly, right?
Yeah.
If it opens up,
I wouldn't have considered that with the regular Fat Tire because it just doesn't come to mind, but this is fantastic, and as springtime's here, and I was cutting the grass earlier, this is perfect.
Yeah, I agree. I think it may have opened up a few more doors in the process as well. I know I was in Roanoke, Virginia last week and had a couple of Fat Tires with a burger. Still a great burger pairing. I'm pretty avid cyclist here at home in Colorado. And I can say that old Fat Tire was not the beer I was reaching for on the weekend after a long bike ride. I think this refreshed Fat Tire is certainly more of that beer. So, I agree with everything you're saying.
So it sounds like it may open up a little broader audience for New Belgium. Is that a correct or a good assumption?
I think that's certainly more of a possibility now, yes, and that's the idea.
Well, Christian, as we begin to wrap up, do you see more reformulations of New Belgium beers in the future?
Most likely. I think we're always looking at our entire portfolio, not just from a sales performance aspect, but we're looking at it as brewers. We look at our entire portfolio and say, where can this beer get better? How can this beer get better? How do we want it to be better? And look at those various aspects and work collaboratively, right, as a team inside of this organization, inside of this brewery, to start to address those concerns. And some of those are, we're looking at new hop varieties, or we're looking at, different filtration techniques or dry hopping techniques or whatever it might be. And I think there may be a number of those possibilities that we don't put to immediate use, that we don't employ right away. But, we learn from that type of work, and maybe there's an opportunity to do that down the road. So yeah, I mean, nothing's etched in stone. Let me put it that way. We're never resting on our laurels when it comes to any of our beers. It sounds a bit perfectionist, but I think creating the perfect beer is it's a lifelong endeavor.
Well, you guys have a great track record because, I mean, like the Voodoo Ranger whole series has just been fantastic. I have enjoyed all of those, but I enjoy your older styles too, the 1554, the triple, and the fat tires. I mean, there's all of them that I like. So La Follies, even the sour beers and things like that, they're great. Well, is there anything new on the horizon you can share with us? And if you can't tell us the name of it, is it going to be any new IPA styles or anything new we can look forward to in the next few months?
I think we, always have new beers coming out in variety packs or in the form of our, Voodoo Rotator program. So we do have a new Voodoo Rotator that'll be out in the third trimester of this year, I guess the fall and winter later this year, as well as a new SIPA in the Hoppy Variety Pack. Let me think about this. Oh, one of the things that's been really exciting is we did a collaboration with brewery Omegang.
Oh.
And so we have a triple that we collaborated on that I went to brew with them back in April, which I think that's due to be out in the market in June. I want to say that's been a pretty fun collaboration. Let's see. Yeah, there's always, new releases coming out from the wood cellar, as you mentioned. And I'm wearing a Magnolia sweatshirt. Our pubs out in San Francisco, both Magnolia and New Belgium, always have, new things on tap, which is, one of the great things about having those small pubs and tap rooms is the ability to turn beers pretty quickly and, let our brewers out there, really show off what they can do and what ideas they have as well.
Yeah, I find my way to the Asheville tap room pretty regularly.
Okay.
You'll have to let me know the next time you're there. I would love to meet up again in person. That would be fun.
Sounds good. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun for sure. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Bell's. I know Bell's has a lot of new beers on tap as well. So, keep an eye out if you're in Bell's distribution territory or a Bell's fan. There's some good stuff on the way.
I'm glad you mentioned that. So I have not looked for it, but the next time I'm in Asheville, am I going to see some Bell's beers there in the tap room?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think in terms of, what's available in tap rooms, I think that is still pretty specific to the brewery you're at. So if you're at a New Belgium brewery in Asheville or Fort Collins, you'll see New Belgium beers, and same with, Kalamazoo. You'll see, at Eccentric Cafe in Kalamazoo, you'll see Bell's beers. And, I think that works pretty well right now. Certainly nice, for me when I visit Kalamazoo, to, enjoy all their small batch offerings, regular and small batch offerings that they have out there.
So it's a great place, and love those beers too. Well, listen, I'm going to let you get on to as you wrap up things so you can take off on a sabbatical. When you come back, I hope to hear about some new inspirations that you've had, and look forward to the next time we can get together again.
Sounds good, Doug. Appreciate your time. Thanks for having me. And I look forward to catching up in the future.
Thank you. Cheers, my friend.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye-bye. Well, that concludes our chat with Christian Holbrook from New Belgium Brewery. I hope you found this conversation as insightful and enjoyable as I did. It's always exciting to get a sneak peek behind the scenes of the craft beer world, right? Now, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. It truly helps us out. And share this video with your fellow beer enthusiasts. And if you've not done so already, consider subscribing to our channel and hitting that notification bell so you'll never miss an update from us. This is Doug Piper signing off for now, but remember, keep exploring those craft beers and cheers to good times.